Speaking tonight about whether or not we believe change is possible. So maybe whoever's not here already thinks it is. So I don't know what that means about the rest of us. But
or they gave up.
Or they gave up, exactly. So we're definitely in the upper tier. And again, for those of you who are watching, I know I look a little lopsided, but it was major dental work going on. So I thought that before deciding if change is possible, one of the most effective things to do in life is to always start with definitions. So how would you define change? You need a paper and pen for this class. So we have, okay. So how would you define change? Straight definitions, nothing fancy.
Going from one state to the other.
Going from one state to the other, like Maryland to Pennsylvania,
Or state of mind.
or state of mind, okay.
Stepping out of the box.
Stepping out of your box. I love it.
Doing a different behavior.
Different behavior. Good. Anybody? So I looked up the Oxford Dictionary, nothing like standard dictionary. So there were actually 5 definitions, 3 verbs and 2 nouns. Ready? Number 1, verb number 1, change, to make someone or something different, to alter or modify. Okay? Number 2, to replace something with something else, especially something of the same kind that is newer or better. So far? 3, to substitute one thing for another. Okay, let's go to the nouns. The first noun, change is the act or instance of making or becoming different. And number 5, coins as opposed to paper currency, which may not be relatable for too long, now the pennies, right? So change, okay. So I thought that before we start on anything practical and personal, the first thing is to make note of how often we say or we hear said, I can't change. Nobody changes, right? It's impossible to change. Do we ever hear this? Do we ever feel it? All the time. But yet, the essence of Rosh Hashanah, the Nesivo Shalom says, the point of Hashem giving us time in general is to allow for change. Shana milashon lishanot. The word shana, a year, is meant in its source to offer change. That the only reason I'm alive is because I'm still afforded change. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So if the fact that a person needs to be alive is because by definition there are changes that we are able to still make. I've said this many times, but at the end of his life, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Klal Yisrael, I can't go anymore. I can't go anymore. Now, we don't find anywhere that we're told that Moshe Rabbeinu was physically incapacitated. He was able to walk, he was able to move, but what he meant was that I'm no longer a holech. I have nowhere to go in terms of growing anymore. I'm done. But you still have the wherewithal to grow, to change, to do, to be more. So the minute we hear someone say, I can't change, or change is impossible, we have to wonder, is this very uncomfortable to listen to me with my mouth crooked? No, I'm okay?
No.
Okay. So I'm just totally self-conscious, but it's fine. So the minute we hear that change is not possible, we've got to wonder. So before we build a case on how to change, let's just look at these definitions and analyze each of them for the possibility. Okay, let's go to definition number 1. Am I capable of making someone or something different to alter or modify it? Not always. Definitely not someone else.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely not someone
We're
else.
trying, maybe we want.
We're
We
trying,
believe that
right?
we cannot change, but we definitely believe that we can change somebody
Exactly.
else.
So when it comes to changing someone else, and we talked about this a lot on the Tisha B'Av Shiur, when it comes to changing someone else, anyone who you attempt to change is usually not budging. And if they will, it's only because you stopped asking. right? So we're not changing anybody else. Can I always alter something to become something else? Also not. How many of us are davening for the same thing as we did the last few years? How many of us are still wishing for the hostages to be released? So as much as I would love change, and as much as I definitely plant seeds and think that my efforts make a difference, I can't ensure those kind of changes. I can't control whether or not those changes become reality. So, but I could very much make some things different and altered in a very positive way. What could I make different and what could I alter? I could alter my narratives. I could alter my machshavos that created my actions. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he asks us to contemplate growth and teshuvah, he says, Ish aven machshavosav, start with your thoughts. What thoughts tripped you up into feeling the wrong way or doing the wrong thing? We'll talk more about that. I can alter my goals. Maybe my goal was to do one thing and it wasn't working. Maybe shifting my goal would be better. Maybe shifting my wish into something that's more feasible or practical or more for me. I could shift my priorities. Maybe last year my priority was earning money and this year it's earning friends. I could shift the priority, right? And I could shift my outlooks. Maybe my outlook, I remember the day that I came home from registering to vote. And my father, Rosh said, "You're a voter?" I said, "Yeah." "You registered?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a Republican." But 5 years later, so was he. So we could alter, right? Thanks to Ronald Reagan, we could alter our outlooks. What?
You get it.
You get it, right? So there are a lot of things that do make sense when it comes to the first definition. I could alter, maybe not others, but I could alter me into becoming someone else. I could alter things that are in my control vis-a-vis my capacity, okay?
I think Rabbi Nachman says, I tried to change the world, nothing changed. I changed myself, the whole world changed.
Beautiful.
But the way you look at it...
Can you repeat that louder? Does everybody listen to this? This woman only shares the most profound wisdom, okay? You have to tune into her. Go ahead. Rabbi Nachman said...
I tried to change the world, nothing changed. I changed myself, the whole world changed.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, like the person that cleaned their glasses, right? Until then, the whole neighborhood was dirty. Okay, so let's go to number 2. The definition of being able to replace something with something else, especially something of the same kind that's now newer or better. So how does this relate to tshuva? Can I really change something for something else? Not really. When it comes to tshuva, I don't really have to think of something else. I've used this mashal before, but I think it's so much the perfect mashal that when you think, for this class you're going to need paper and pens. So the Shul generously donated pens and paper you could take. So when it comes to tshuva, it's not really the daunting, intimidating task of changing me into something else. I don't have to morph myself. And I was just speaking to a friend of mine who told me that she's getting all these calls from her grandchildren lately, but they have nothing to say to her because they got the app on their phone that turns your face into other things.
Yeah.
So their mother doesn't let them use the app, but she lets them call their grandmother. So they're on the phone with her, but really they're just using the app. So I guess you could change yourself into other things. I sat on an airplane next to a very adorable college student going to LA, a secular college student. And she spent the entire flight, 5.5 hours, changing the cover page of her Facebook. And at the end she says, "Do you like it?" I did, but it looked nothing like the girl that I was sitting next to, right? You could change into something else. But that's not tshuva. Filters. But the beauty of tshuva is more like people who go for a LASIK surgery, eye surgery, or skin peels. Why do people risk LASIK surgery more often than plastic surgery? Why does a person go for a skin peel? Not that I know about this, you could tell, but why would a person do a skin peel who may not be a risk taker? Because those two procedures are not creating something new. They're bringing you back to what you were before. My eyes will revert back to what they were in 3rd grade. My skin will look like it did when I was younger. Tshuva is similar. It doesn't take as much guts as transformation into something totally different. You're going back to what you always were. You've always been a beautiful, perfect soul.
Skinny size too.
You've always got, well, we're not talking about those procedures, but we've always been our truest self. I'll prove it to you. Rosh says that the message of the shofar is really the message of the soul. You start and you end with the tekiah. You are your perfect, whole, unbroken self. Tshuva takes you to a place where you're honest. I know what I really am inside, but shvarim, there have been breaks. Teruah, and I feel bad about those breaks. I can't believe it. I'm shaking, I'm crying. But the joy of that crying, like we say in Tehillim, Gilu Bar'ada, I could rejoice in the fact that I tremble because I'm getting back to being my whole self again. But it's always been me. So yes, it's a change, but it's not into something newer or better. It's something that I always have been that I might have been distracted from. It's worthiness that I've always had that I haven't been attentive to. Does that make sense? It's like, there's such an exhilarated feeling that a person experiences, and just seeing people go through this, that when you deal with people who've been through abuse, who've been living with unbelievable paralyzing shame, thinking since they were 10 years old that it was their fault, and living with that, believing that they're hopeless and they're bad and they're unlovable. And all of a sudden they get the reality that it was never you. And what happens? They don't change. What happens? They remember who they've always been. Does that resonate? So that's a really powerful analogy of not having to change, just to remember who you never had to be. Because you've always been great. You've always been whole. So what really changes is the connection to ourselves and to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to the feelings that we always deserve to have. But not quite that it's something new. I think that intimidates us. On the one hand, I'd love to be new, but on the other hand, I don't have the foggiest idea of what that would look like. I don't need to. I just have to be my best self, and I always have been in God's eyes. Okay, yeah.
So many times before Rosh Hashanah and Shiur, and we always hear that the tshuva is like becoming a new person. That's why whatever happened before, is forgiven or whatever. He's saying no.
Not a new person, a clean slate. Rav Pinka says the best example is a baby that was rolling around in the mud, who's plopped into the bath, and his parent just, catches him in those white, yummy towels that I never seem to be able to keep white. But you know that image, right? So that's really tshuva, that you've always been this beautiful soul. You've always been whole. You've always been, but we've rolled around. We've gotten stuff. And teshuvah is this cleanse where we're coming back. There's a wonderful analogy. I was going to go there at the end, but you're bringing me there, so let's share it now. That when you think about it, when we're blowing the shofar, right? We don't speak. We just think. You just focus. And one reason for not speaking is because we have this principle of ein kategar nasa sanegar. We don't use something negative, something that would prosecute us, to become our defense attorney, right? That's why some people don't wear gold on Yom Kippur. You don't want to remind God of the golden calf, as much as it was never our problem, it was just the men. But we're generous. The Kohen Gadol would not wear gold in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, only outside. So the question is, we don't speak, one reason being because we don't want to use our power of speech since we have used it negatively. So we don't want to use that during the time that we're supposed to be so pure. But our hearts and our minds and our neshama don't have to worry because they've always been pure. Isn't that gorgeous? And for the same reason, why do we have to worry about not wearing gold or not having shofar that's made out of cows or calves if we're not in a Kodesh Kodashim? The Sfas Emes says because every Jew is a Kodesh Kodashim. And when you stand and hear the shofar, you are perfect again. Hashem sees us as perfect again. You could go over to your friend, Motzei Yom Kippur, and say, Baruch Mechayei Mesim. You've been breathed back to life. But it's you. You're resuscitated. But your core has still been good. And the neshama has never been tainted. No matter what has happened to us in our lives, our neshama has never become tarnished. We might have work to do, we might have distanced ourselves, but even if you think about how Hashem created us, ladies, Hashem created every other creation how? He said something, right? He spoke and it was. Amar Vayehi. There'll be a dog, there's a dog. There should be a bird, there should be an ocean. By us, what did he do? He breathed into us and we were. What does that mean? That he breathed into us, he infused us with himself. That is us. That's what made us be. And that's never gone as long as we're alive. And that's the part of us that'll never die. So we are that unbelievably uncontaminated chelek alo kamima'al. That's who we are. The process of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is to remind ourselves of being that. To come back to being mechadesh, that belief, and that sense of pride and privilege into who we are. That's who we are. So we're not changing into something new. We're reverting back. When the shofar blows, your soul is reminded of the moment that it was infused in your body. And Rav Hutner says that your soul is actually blowing itself back to God and saying, here I am, give me a new lease, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to join you again. So in that sense, you're improved, shofar l'shaper, but you don't have to become something new. You're already fine. Okay, does that help? Okay, so let's go to number 3. To substitute one thing for another. Would you say that we affect that change? Yes. That we substitute, even the concept of musar is lahasir, to remove one set of ways of thinking and offer me a better one, a more effective one. When you're menachem, when you receive comfort and create a shift in life, you remove one way of maybe being stuck and you realize that you could still keep going. Sur meira va'aseh tov. You could remove one set of doings and take on a more positive one. So I would say that change is very much a reality. Even to grieve and mourn what you don't have and to accept your life that you do have and start living it. Not a bad idea, right? To stop wishing and start living with the reality that is your life while you have it. So all of those are changes that are possible. Is this, yeah, are we okay? And just to go to the nouns, that the first noun, the act or instance of making or becoming different. Every cell of our body is different than it was when we were born. We're constantly regenerating, and there's always aliyah, and there's always growth symbolically and practically 100%. And the last one about changing coins for dollars, that's a personal decision. Okay, so the tough part is that the things in our life that we go to shul hoping for, the other people in our life that we wish would see us differently or be different people, that is very frustrating, and I think we have to admit it. But that's not really the avodah of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The avodah of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is not to come to God with your shopping list of wishes and wants. That could be part of it. And that could be part and parcel of saying, I'd love to be part of your world for another year. And I'd love to renew my lease in this world of yours. And I'd love more pieces and parts to do it with. No question. I'd love to incorporate more into my avoda. But the work of Rosh Hashanah is really the work on my awareness of you deepening and my awareness of who I want to be, crystallizing in a deeper way. That's really where we want to go. That I want to be mamlich, I want to coronate you in different ways in my life. And be able to come to a place of feeling an inner transformation. So the success of Rosh Hashanah is going to be those definitions of change that are within our reach. The other changes we could hope for, we don't give up on, we don't believe that God is never listening and capable of bringing us anywhere. But that's not going to define my success or lack of come Rosh Hashanah. Are we on the same page so far? Okay. So we're contemplating now the change in a way that's real. And just for an example, and these are just the ones I came up with, you could sit and think of your own personal list. But I was just thinking, like, what thoughts would I be able to start thinking in a bigger way that would absolutely ensure me more success in life, in a real way, in a spiritual way? I came up with these. If I believed that I really was worthy and loved by God, no matter what. No matter what. You know, I was speaking to a wonderful, very wise, a woman with so much to her recently. And she said, you know, I really believe that as much as I've grown in my life, because I haven't achieved what I know should be perfection, that I haven't yet deserved worthiness in the eyes of God or significant people in my life. Can you imagine? She's living on this planet for almost 40 years, thinking that she has to wait to be worthy and lovable. And I don't think that's foreign to a lot of us sometimes, right? But that's the noise. Welcome to Scheiners. We're like all connected,
No,
right?
like what? It's something that we can turn off or it's a regular.
You could tell them. And is that a music thing? I think it's just people. I think it's just people like being, you know, it's just, it's just the joy. We had a woman sitting here one week when I was teaching here. She says, I live behind this shul. She says, you think you're getting a taste? She says, it's fun. No, it's still, there's music playing. They're bothered by no. The music is there's music playing. I don't think they're willing to turn that off. That's the place. So number 2, when we think that perhaps Hashem is not involved in my life, if I walked around with the thought, Mik Hashem, who is like God? Hamagbihi lashadas, he is so lofty. He is sitting up so high. But hamashpili liros, can I believe that no matter how high he is, that he shrinks himself, kavyachol, he's mitzamtzem himself, to be constantly looking at and involved with me? Can I really live with that? That at the end of the day, at the end of Simchas Torah, I'm going to have clarity of Hashem hu Elokim, he is God, but more than that, kamashpili liros, that the magic of God is not his grandeur, but it's that he's so great and he could shrink. To be a giant is gigantic, but to be a giant that could shrink into a mouse hole is even more gigantic. Am I right? Rav Pinkus says that. So can I believe that no matter how great and how grand, that Hashem is with me? Why don't I have to scream Shmona Esrei? Because he's right here. Why don't you cut in front of your friend when she's davening? Because you don't interfere. He's right with her. You don't cut between them. So can I have that awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu holding me, rocking me, feeling with me, feeling for me, rooting for me? That would change my life. That would be a Rosh Hashanah. That would be a new mind. Rosh Hashanah, new mind. If I allowed myself the thought that Rosh Hashanah is a day of opportunity, of evaluation. Now, when I was a teacher for many years, I never liked working in a school that didn't give yearly evaluations. Can anyone relate to that? Because you always wonder how you're doing. I'd rather be told, this is what you should tweak, this is what's working, this is what's not working, this is what we stand for, this is what we don't. Because when you get an evaluation, it's black and white. I got my marching orders. Such a relief to know how I'm doing. When I taught seminary for quite a number of years in Washington Heights and Breuers, so the Menahel, Rav Elias, who was such a beloved mentor of mine, so he said, you could always tell who the better teachers will be. Not who gives the better model lesson, but who asks you how they could be better. Right? How am I doing? I'm open. And in a business, in a marriage, in parenting, what can I do better? So Rosh Hashanah is an opportunity. I'm inviting Hashem. He wouldn't know, Kavyachal, if I didn't blow the shofar and say, come. Because it's an opportunity to do better this year. It's not scary. It's scary not to know. Because information is power. And I want the information of how to live a life that's more connected to Him and to me being more. So far, are we on the same page? You could please argue. Okay, anybody? Another thing that would change a lot, and this is true, and I'm basing on the Nesivo Shalom. What's the scary part of the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur davening and mentality? What's the image that you have in your mind that always freezes you? Rosh Hashanah, they open the books of life and death, right? That feeling of anyone who dies. Now, there are very great people that died every year. Does that mean they were judged badly? No. There are very bad people that are still alive and kicking. Does that mean they got off easy? No. So what does it mean? The Sifrei Chaim and Mason. Let me build on that question. We learn that tzadikim b'misasan kriyim chayim. Righteous people, after they're gone, are still called what? Alive. Risha'im b'chayim kriyim mason. Wicked people in their death, in their life, are called dead. Right? Didn't we ever hear the living dead? Wasn't that like a band or something? So what does it mean to be alive or dead? Life means connected to the source of life. Death means choosing to disconnect from the source of life. It's pulling your respirator. Hashem is the source of life. The Nesivo Shalom says you don't have to be afraid of the analogy of the book of life or death. Hashem is inviting you. Take a pencil. You know who I am. You know what my expectations are. I would love for us to be closer. I'd love to have you as a team player in bringing godliness to the world and fulfilling your mission, and for me and you to be just be in love with each other. For me to be able to bestow goodness upon you and keep you going to perpetuate even more of what you'll be for eternity. I would love that, but I give you choice. So here's a pencil. Be honest. Would you rather be in the book of who I consider living? Or do you want to say goodbye? You take the pencil, you make your decision. You have till Shmini Atzeres to fill it in with a pen or permanent marker. Let's stick with a pen, it might be less intimidating. But the beauty is, says Nesivo Shalom, your decision. Whether or not someone breathes through the year or has a pulse isn't what we're focusing on. Of course, I'd love more life because I want to use it. But I'm deciding whether or not I want to be alive. And that doesn't mean just in this world. Does that make a difference? That's really the determination of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Hashem is in. He's already decided to be perpetually in love with us and to always believe in us and always be ready for second chances. We've had the problem. So we need to be real about our choice for the year ahead. Do I want to renew a lease, or do I want to opt out and get a different vehicle? Does that change anything? Okay, so with that example, that how a different thought could create a totally different feeling of reality. Now I want to be practical and use your pen and paper to think about, I don't want another year where I'm just leaving change in the abstract. So I want a year where I'm not stagnant. And I know that I could do work to define and contemplate real change. I had 4 out of 5 definitions pretty much. So I'd like to give you a few exercises that might elicit change or preparation for change. Okay? This is the first time I'm ever doing something practical here. So yeah, we're going to try. So I want you to write down your answers. You totally don't have to share them. You could share them if you'd like. But I'd like you to think of these questions, even if the question annoys you, okay, and seems ridiculous. Just think about it. Question number 1. Think of a person or a type or number of people that you're jealous of. Or if you want to be politically correct, intrigued by, okay? In a way that you really would crave to be more like them. Think of that person, or think of that type of person or category of people who I'm jealous of. And now ask yourself, what is it about that person or them that you'd want for yourself? Second, is anything about that in your control to acquire? So if the person that I'm intrigued by is 6 feet tall and blonde and size negative, I don't know, chances are I should call it a day. But is there anything about what they are or what they have, something that I could be in control of acquiring?
Again, this part,
Is what I'm envious of, is there anything about that I could be in control of getting for myself? Of having something similar, of achieving something like they did? If so, what would I need to do to get it? Or to get there? Everybody that got someplace, they had to get there. Okay, they had to get there. I asked a 15-year-old boy once that I was evaluating, so what's your goal in life? He said, to be rich and to chill. Okay? Do you know anyone that you look up to that's rich and chills? Yeah. Thought of a number of people. And how did they get to be rich? I don't know. Did they get rich because they were chilling? I don't know. Well, why don't you ask them? Just do some homework. Ask them, how did you become what you are? And come back, we can talk about it. He comes back, he said, they had to do stuff. One of my sons met a businessman and he said, what do you do for a living? You know, what is your living? I'm sorry, he said, what is your business? Right? What is your business? He asked him when he was 14. And the man looked at him and said, none of yours. But most people want to share how they got to where they are. Most people enjoy talking about themselves. if they're already secure. So what would you have to do to get there? Maybe you'd have to ask them. But why do I put that number one? Because we do have visions and images of what we'd like to be, and we might have models, and we feel so stuck that I am not there yet, or I'm not them yet, but they always were not them. So think about that. You're not jealous of everybody. The type of person that you're jealous of, you're not even jealous of all of them. You don't know all of them. But whatever it is you envy, think about using that. I want to make changes, and that's a change that intrigues me. Let me think about it instead of stewing in it. What could I do actively to learn to be more of that? Can we contemplate that? Anybody want to share anything they wrote, or? No? Okay, yeah.
But listen to Kaczynski said once that when you're jealous in somebody, something, you have it.
You have it.
You have it, and
It's true.
you're just not there yet.
It's true.
It's like it said.
I've never been jealous of a ballerina, ever. Never.
So it's not in you. You don't have it. It's not in you.
It's not in-
No, because
It doesn't be jealous of.
because it's a possessed and not possessed, right? So when we see something negative, in somebody,
Amazing.
but also when we are jealous in somebody, we want to be like somebody because it's
Amazing.
really us. We want
So jealous, gorgeous. So she's saying in the name of Rebbetzin Takashinsky, brilliant, that if I'm jealous, it means there's some part of me that relates to it. So interesting you said that. For a number of years, I had a business in the house. When my kids were young, I was selling certain things in the house, and I never enjoyed it. So once a year, there was a trade show, and people would walk around the trade show saying, oh, like they're the top. And I couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. It's so interesting because it was never me. But someone that does what I like well, I can't get enough of them. I want to learn to be like, it's true. It's so true.
I read in a Shiur one time, also something similar, if you go to England and you visit the palace, you're never jealous. It is so fun.
Some people are. There are some people that are. I think they build houses a few miles down.
Yeah, it's too far. It's too far. We usually more like jealous of our neighbor, somebody the same level of us.
Interesting.
That's
So interesting that we really do have a reach that we're thinking of. Excellent. This is great. That's great. So, number 2. Write down the last goal that you achieved. That you did have your mind on, if I did this, then I would feel like I got someplace, or I would feel more. I would feel better. Or the last, it could be or the last gift that you wanted, that you received, either from God or from someone else, or that you afforded. So either a goal that you achieved, that you wished for, or a gift that you wanted, that either Hashem or another or yourself, that it was bestowed to you. And when you have that in mind, I want you to be honest in asking, once you achieved that goal or got that gift, did it fill you and make you feel the way that you expected that it would? When I got it, when I made it, when I possessed it, did it fill and make me feel the way that I really anticipated and hoped that it would? If it did, how long did it work for? Try to write that down. How long did it work for? How long was I able to savor that good feeling? They say in positive psychology, it's not so much the amount of experiences that you have that are positive, but how long you could savor them, right? How long you could recall them and feel it. And if it didn't give you what you wanted, what was it that you still were missing? Anybody want to share? No? Anybody? Okay.
Any physical gift?
Anything.
I got a physical gift. I didn't even use it for.
Was it something that you had wanted?
I did.
You did. And what did you think you'd feel when you got it?
I didn't think I'm gonna feel anything.
So why'd you want
There
it?
was nothing specific that I thought.
Why'd you want
It's
it?
not. I'm not sure if I even wanted it. I'm saying my husband gave me a gift.
But it was a gift that
like that.
it was a gift that you had wanted. You were looking forward to
Very
it.
happy to get it.
Yeah. And if I would have told you 10 years ago, you will get that gift, what did you think you'd feel?
I would not have believed you. First of all.
Wow. Because it meant what to you? That you imagined that someone who,
It's not something that years ago I could have imagined getting.
because of affording it or
Yeah, 100%.
okay, so it would have meant like, wow, like I achieved something, like we got someplace.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's not. It's nice. I'm not very happy to have it. But you would think it's
But it's not the thing.
no.
It's not the thing. Anybody else? Great, that's a good example. Anybody else? Yeah.
For me, I'm really grateful that even since like more than when I was a teenager, I feel like I'm in the best physical shape of my life, and it's something I really did not think I could get as I got older. And you know, I am beyond grateful. I do stop and think like this is something that only Hashem was able to do. But at the same time, I feel guilt. Like, why am I not running a marathon right now? Why am I not taking advantage of eating 10 salads a day to maintain it? You know.
That's interesting. See, that's why I just hold off on that, just not to have that guilt. One of my friends once said, I am in shape, round. Okay, so last one. Think of a time that you did feel incredibly and blissfully blessed and whole. Think of a time where you really felt so good. What was going on at that time?
Seriously.
And second part of the question, what were your thoughts about what was going on at that time? Want to share? No? Anybody want to share? No? How many of you had an answer to that question?
I have an answer.
That's so beautiful.
I have an answer.
Okay, anybody want to share? Go ahead.
I felt like that I think when my son got married.
When your son got married. Beautiful. And what was going on? What were you thinking?
I just felt like bracha was surrounding me. You know, I just felt like I was not even walking on land.
That's so special.
Yeah.
But you didn't even feel like you were walking on land. That's beautiful. Did you ever tell your daughter-in-law that?
It's possible.
That's great. That's great. Wow. Anybody else?
I think certain things I think you need to have like time to see how. Yeah.
In
Thinking
retrospect.
now the best, like not the best. I'm saying the answering your question. I think when the kids were young
Ah,
and the house was full of noise but at the time it was probably hard.
Yeah.
But looking back now, and now that my grandkids come back, I love that noise.
hmm.
I'm saying.
Well, our hearing
I think people
goes.
back, like people, we had less, and we couldn't afford this or that or whatever. But looking back, the best time was the simple trips, the simple this, the simple that, the noise. It's just, but I'm sure at the time it was also not as easy. It's just like I'm thinking maybe
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be removed from
Maybe.
something.
Or forget some things, right?
Yeah.
I think I felt like that when I forgave someone that I was holding something against for a long time. Thinking back. You have an example? No? Okay. So now that you did that, I want you to do the last piece. Is this okay so far? We've never done anything like this, yeah? So now I want you to do this. Now that we understand a theme, I see the types of things that I'm envious of. I see the types of things that I thought I wanted, did want, felt good about, didn't feel enough about. So you're getting a picture. I want you to sort of come up with a theme. What I really want is fill in the blank. And it could be something very superficial, it could be something very materialistic. But what I really would want, the bracha that I would really want, would be blank. But I want you to boil it down. After you write what it is, I want you to write why. And then again, why. So I really want, a house. Why? I want a place to host. Why do I want to host? I really want to feel giving. Why do I want to feel giving? Just keep on boiling it down till there's no more whys. Okay? I really want to be healthy. Why? I want to stay alive. Why? Because I want to hang around for whatever. Why is that important? Because keep on boiling it down till you have no more whys and get to the core of what getting that would mean to you. What would that change really mean to you?
Where are we headed with that?
I don't know. Wherever it leads you. I was helping somebody figure out a career plan once. He said, I really want to be and he mentioned the profession. When he got to the final why, he couldn't believe it. Nothing to do with the profession. So I want you to see where you're going to get. I don't know where you're going to get, but you'll find out. What's at the core of what you're really, really craving? Your shopping list isn't just a shopping list. And if anybody wants to share their core wish, you could share it. And I'm going to take a guess. Tell me if I'm right or not. I just saw a mentalist perform yesterday. I'm very into that. So I'm going to take a guess. I'm not a mentalist. But could it be that at the core of all of our real wishes, there's some theme that has something to do with clarity or connection or feeling complete? Raise your hand if I'm right. Okay, I'm not a mentalist, I'm just a human being. So that tells us what we're really craving. That what I'm really craving doesn't have to do with the wish, because I've gotten gifts that I thought would make me whatever. But if they didn't give me a sense of clarity or connection or completion, I'm still craving. And those people that I'm envious of, I'm assuming that they have some level of clarity, connection, or completion. And the things that did make me happy inside in a way that I really felt them was because the bracha of your son's marriage, Baruch Hashem, gave you that clarity and connection and completion, or knew that it was giving it to him. So that's really what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are meant to bring us to get back to the core of what would give me that. What would give me that is knowing my ability to transform and be new and be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and see him as my everything and get my goals back in order with the neshama aspect of me and not just the wish list. So we still have our deeper wants and wishes. But what we're shifting here now is that they have deeper reasons and goals. I could be wishing for the most superficial item. I could be wishing for a car. But why do I want the car? What do I want to do with the car? What would it enable me? Why could God relate to me needing a car? Because there's something about him in it. There's something about me as a team player in it. So all of a sudden, my bakashos are turning into something that I'm using to speak God's language. Why do I want to be healthy? Why do I want another year? Why do I want Israel to be at peace? Because I miss touring? No. So I'm not taking away from it. But to come to a place of knowing why HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates to it. What's in it for me and him? What's in it for me connecting to him? What's in it for him coming to the world in a way that I could appreciate more? So focusing on what's possible for me to succeed in, as opposed to the bitterness of what eludes me, realizing what I want to use this year for me. Even if Hashem elicits no change, Khalila, of course he will. But even if he wasn't, I am totally capable of bringing this next phase of my life to a different place because I want to. Because I become different through Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Because I go back to who I really could have been. So, things that we could put into play right now today, even before we go through the process of Yomim Noraim, that right now today, we could be more mindful of having more meaning and passion about what we're already doing anyway. Now, yesterday I went to we had a party that we were invited to that was on a marina in a boat. Very, very special. And as soon as you got onto the boat, they gave out these things to put on for seasickness, which made you wonder how fun this is going to be. But it was fun. It was very nice. So I'm rushing on, and I want to get there. And one of my really favorite nephews was standing next to me, and he was taking his time. And he said, Chani, where are you rushing? I said, I don't want to be late. We have to be there. He said, Chani, stop. Look around. Take it in. It'll just take a couple of minutes. I always wondered why he was such a calm person. It took another minute, but I actually stood there with this beloved nephew of mine and just took it in. Took no real extra time, but it totally changed the experience. You're doing a mitzvah anyway. Take it in. I'm speaking to God right now and he's listening. I'm crying right now. That means my neshama is penetrating and sweating through my body. I'm feeling good for someone else. I'm proud of myself. I'm witnessing Hashem's glory. Take it in. He created this moment. Take it in. Someone shared with me the news this morning. I went into a shiur that I was teaching. Someone said, you saw the news this morning. I hadn't. So it was very hard to process. And and then just start working. But later during the day, I had a little time I didn't want to read the news as much as I wanted to read the pieces about who the people were that died. Amazing people. So I read that one man had been in a car. Did you read this? That the Rav that died, I forgot his name, it was one syllable. I forgot the name, Pat, something like that. So he wanted to go to yeshiva to give a shiur. And he was in a car. He was getting a ride with a friend. And just then, there was only room for one passenger in the car. And there was someone that had to rush to a medical emergency, some appointment. So he said, you take my seat, I'll go in the bus. He went in the bus and he was killed. And I was sitting there, taking it in. And of course, the first reaction was, so unfair, and I can't believe it. And then it hit me. His last act in the world was so selfless. Was trying to give someone else a refuah. Gave someone else a sense of menuchas hanefesh. He had serenity about him. He had goodness about him. He lived. He lived. The beauty of just taking something in and really feeling, letting yourself process. To do that with a mitzvah, to do it with a midah, to do it with another person's feelings, to do it with nature, just to take it in. That's how I get through teaching here. I'm sitting listening to this music, which is terribly annoying, but I'm thinking, look how beautiful we're in this little place in Muncie that sounds like Tzfat all day, right? Take it in, I'm in Tzfat. Just take it in. Instead of new Kabbalos to take on to bump up the meaning of what you already do. That has much more impact and gets you more bang for the buck. You're already doing so much. Bump it up a notch. You already have the mezuzah on the door. Think about it. You're already saying Asher Yatzar. See it in your body. You're already giving tzedakah and eating kosher, and do something in terms of the feel of it, of the awareness of it. Let it in. Another piece to take on right away. To note where you have changed in your life already so that you have no problem believing in your capacity to change. You have made changes. Maybe small ones, maybe in kindergarten, but they were changes. We've all made changes. Embrace the fact that you are someone who proves that you do and can change. Because the only time we change is when we believe in ourselves. The Nesivo Shalom says that the only Jews that got out of Mitzrayim were the ones that believed Hashem when he said, B'ni B'chor Yisrael, I'm crazy about you. The ones who said, no, he doesn't mean that until we grow. They never made it out. Because that, says in the Nesivo Shalom, is the voice of Amalek. Karcha baderech. He made you stop believing in that derech, the derech that got you out of Mitzrayim. That you believe that you are worthy and you are good enough. And Hashem does love you already because you are a proven entity to Him. Now you'll change more. But not if you don't think you're worth anything. Not if you don't think you have what it takes. Not if you think His love is conditional on you becoming something else or someone else. It's not going to work that way. And lastly, something to implement from Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah said this way before anyone learned visualization in psychology. He said, think of a challenge that you'd like to overcome with tshuva. Think of a nisayon, of an obstacle that you want to override. Think of a place where you want to get better. And imagine all the voices, your own and others, that are going to get in your way. Imagine all the things that are going to make it difficult. Imagine being aware of those. I'm thinking of Mario, jumping over them, like the little guy, isn't that his name? So imagine all of that, and imagine getting through it and being at the other end and knowing that you made it. Imagine making it. Now start. But you've got to visualize that place that you want to get to. And that's a beautiful thing to hold on to. I remember when one of my children was getting over a very serious illness. So I had in mind a simcha that was upcoming. And I imagined this child getting dressed and being at that simcha. I just held on to it. And it was a week before the simcha. And the child was definitely not 100% mended yet, but enough that I was hoping to make it. And my sibling that was making the simcha called me and says, I really want you to relax, enjoy the simcha, so leave the kids home with the babysitter. And I said, don't you dare! She said, what are you talking about? I want you to enjoy. I said, don't take away my visual. This child is going to be in that circle. And just having that, just visualizing it and visualizing the looks and the stares and the questions. I'm going to get over it. And I'm going to be with that child in the circle. And I still have a frame of that picture of that child in the circle. Doesn't look herself. She was there. Have that visual. Me getting through that challenge and being there. I was at a chasana of a woman who I love so much. She got married at 42. I was dancing with her in the middle, and her mother comes rushing in. I had never met her mother before, but we knew each other enough just from hearing about each other. And I whispered to her mother, I said, I heard you were remarkable through all of this. She said, I was. She said, it wasn't easy, but I was. I said, how did you do it? She says, I closed my eyes every Friday night, no matter how hard the week was, on my daughter and me. And I imagined the moment of dancing with her on this side of the mechitza. I didn't even imagine what was going on the other side. It didn't matter. But I knew there'd be this moment of me dancing with my daughter. And I just kept that fresh every Friday night since she was 18 years old. Can you imagine? Create the visual. You're going to get through it. And imagine being at the other end. So finally, ladies, the beauty of who we are going to be this year is Hashem's creativity is unbelievable. But the beauty of knowing who we are going to be because of the changes that we're already thinking and planning and able to implement, that's real stuff. You're banking on that. And that's definitely something that the year is going to bring, Emir Hashem. There'll be a lot more than that. There'll be icing on the cake. But going in with that confidence of every one of these brachos of change, I'm using HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring you in more. It's a win-win for both of us. I think that's a different confidence entering Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So I think that you did good. You did good. All right? Okay.
By the way,